Okay, welcome to the CrossFit Grandview Podcast. I am excited to have our guest today. Someone I've wanted to have on for a long time, a long time member, anchor of our 6:30 a.m. class, which I was just talking to Dan, which is our biggest class consistently of the entire day.
6:30 a.m.?
Yes, 6:30 a.m. It's kind of a... It's a battle between 5:30 p.m., 5:30 a.m., and 6:30, and then 6:30 kind of took it back. 5:30 grew back, but 6:30 a.m. has like a very consistent running crowd that comes in year after year. A lot of people who have been here for a long time. Definitely like our best class, I would say, for like gym spirit. You know, the people who are going to like go to the pep rallies and all the parties and all that type of stuff. So I love that. And Aaron, I was just talking to some of the guys the other day and about how you had said, we should set something up this year like we have for the Open, but do it against like class time against class time. I said, the problem with that is you guys are going to win running away. We'd have to maybe combine some classes like 8:30, 9:30, noon to go we'd have to really combine forces to go against that 6:30. But so Aaron, you've been training with us since, I'm going to take a stab, 2011, correct?
I always get confused whether it was 2011 or 2012, but I think it was 2011.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe it was right around the time, was Dave still at the gym?
In Gehenna?
Yeah.
I think maybe, yeah.
Okay.
Just on Sundays, though, right? Yeah.
Okay. There was
That's
a period.
foggy.
Okay. Yeah. Because it's quite a while back. But so you've been with us. So yeah, if we're going back to 2011, that's about 13 of the 15 years we've been doing this. And I love to start out with just a lot of people know you from the gym, but give us some background on like what led you up to joining CrossFit, why you wanted to do it, kind of your background before that.
Yeah, so I grew up in Northwest Ohio, and I did a lot of normal sports as a kid. I did soccer, baseball, everything. But then in like 5th or 6th grade, I got into wrestling, and I did that all through high school. Was decent, but not like state level or anything like that. So I was always a big fan of wrestling, and then you know this. I was a fan of pro wrestling and UFC back in the day.
Me too.
Always loved watching that. So I did that. And then in college, I didn't do sports in college, but I did like intramural stuff with football. And then I was big into ultimate frisbee in college. So I did that on the club level. And then after college, I went like a year or two where didn't do a whole lot. Like I ran and stuff like that. And then I got into running. And then in 2010 or 2011, when we moved to Columbus for my job, I did nothing for like a year, pretty much. Every now and then I'd work out or I'd run. And then I was watching the 2010 CrossFit Games. I think they showed it like the finals on ESPN or something. Or so I saw it somewhere. Or maybe I saw the 2011. I can't remember which one I saw. And Graham won it.
It would have been 2011 then.
Yeah.
Or was it when he won? Or when Rich won?
I don't know. I may have seen 2011.
Because that was what was on ESPN.
Yeah, I may have watched 2011, then followed it back, like went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Cool.
And then was looking for gyms in Columbus, and I'm like, Graham Holmberg won in 2010, and there's gyms here in
like
Columbus.
A year off that.
And I was like, after watching it, I'm like, oh, that's super cool, and like things that I could relate to and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I'll go check that out. So then I called and did elements with you. I think one of the classes was just you and I as well.
Yep.
And in between doing elements, I started working with Kate.
Yeah, he's like, look at this guy squat. I'm like, ooh.
Well, Kate
Let
had
me
already
help
seen
him.
it, and Brandon's like, Aaron, go lower. And Kate's like, he can't go lower. Come a long way. Shout out to Affiliate PT for if you think my squat's not low, you should have seen it back then. But anyways, yeah. So
Yeah, you were doing some work with her at Lifetime. I remember that.
So because I talked to you about who I should work with for nutrition, and you said call my girlfriend Kate, and so I started doing nutrition with Kate, and then I also it was really helpful when I first started CrossFit. I did Kate's group like twice a week, and she slowed it down for me a little bit too, as far as CrossFit goes. And that helped a lot, both with the nutrition and learning this stuff.
And we kind of got back into running too. And because
Correct.
I did the run group and you would run a lot with us.
Correct, because I think we did the run group even before Summer Shred was created, I think,
Yeah, we went to Hoover, and I found an old picture of like our first time. I think we all
saw
did
that too. It popped up on Facebook.
Yeah. We had
fun.
like Bob from the old gym, and you were there. Dan came. Yeah, that was pretty neat.
Yeah, Dan did used to show up to things.
Yeah, he did.
For those of you that know him now.
Yeah, he's reached his limit.
Yeah. But yeah, so I got into it then, and then when it moved from Gahanna to Grandview, I had the decision to make, because I live in Reynoldsburg, so it was, do I make the move? But I'm usually pretty loyal, and also, you know, I had friends in the gym, and change is tough, and I'm like, this is working, so why would I switch it up? And at the time with my job, I would travel 2-3 hours every day for my job, so what's 25 minutes? So, but it did kind of change. I used to go to the 8:30 more, and it did kind of change when I went. Like, I started to drift into the 6:30, and then really liked the culture of the 6:30. So then I'm like, it's 6:30 or bust.
Yep.
Like I did do Oli last night, but typically if I don't go to the 6:30, that's a rest day.
Yep.
But
that's really cool, especially you know, you mentioning that move. I remember I was just discussing it the other day with someone, because they were talking about moving like a chiropractic practice, and I was like, I moved my gym, I don't know, 25 miles across town. And, you know, that was like the scariest aspect of it at the time, because I thought we would grow where we were at, and we certainly did. But at the time we had put people on so slowly, and I'm like, man, if we lose half of these people, and we're going to have more bills because we had a bigger building and all of this, it was a really scary thing. And what was really cool is pretty much everyone came. Everybody came along for the ride. And then, you know, after a few months, some people didn't want to make that drive anymore. But by then we had built back, we had gained all the people that we, you know, needed to make it work. And man, I'm so thankful for guys like you who were like, dude, this goes from being, you know, an 8-minute drive to, you know, I'm driving halfway across Columbus now just to get here. So
yeah,
that was really cool. So we get to Grandview, you know, after you had been at the other gym, about a year, probably. Yeah. You were probably there for a year. And so at Grandview, you know, this is a long time fitness wise, like, you've now been through, you know, you started this in your 20s and now you're in your 40s. So you've been through some different phases of, like, you know, we were talking about it a little bit before we got into this. Like, you can't white knuckle it for 13 straight years from your 20s into your 40s and sustain that all the time. So, like, maybe just talk us through a couple years of, like, you've stayed extremely consistent. You come in here all the time. You're here every day, but you have a really good way of, like, self-governing yourself. So you're not real banged up. You're not hurt. You're not just, like, it's not always just a complete climb, but that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I also use all of the services available too. Like
that helps.
Like, I mean, I do Remom with affiliate PT, and I just had PT with Mandy this morning. So I definitely.
And Remom, can you explain what that is? That I think probably a lot of people don't know.
Yeah, I probably won't be able to explain it as good as Mandy or Maddie, but typically on Tuesdays from 7:45 to 8:15. We do remom, which is like an EMOM, only it's rehab stuff or mobility stuff. So she does a good job either looking at the workouts for the week and programming stuff that will help us either recover or prepare for a workout, or I'll say, hey, this is the workout I have circled for the week. It's tomorrow. Can we do some stuff to prep me for that workout? And so she'll run us through like 4 rounds of stuff. So it
I
could
just
be
did it
lat
one
stuff.
day. Yeah, it was really, it's helpful
Such a
because
cool
it's
idea,
like
yeah.
what most of us have weaknesses on, like lower abs, hip flexors, like where you're tight or weak, and targeting that. So kind of keeps your body put back together.
And if you can self-motivate yourself to do all the mobility stuff, great. But a lot of the stuff I won't do on my own, like some of the weighted hip extension stuffs or stuff on the GHD or different things. I won't do that kind of stuff on my own. So it's good. Like I'm like, Mandy, I need this, so throw this in, and then I'll attempt to do some of the other stuff. But
or do it right. I feel like it's very difficult to do it, like to really get your body in that exact position to do it correctly. Because I'll do it, but then, she's coming up and she's like, no.
Yeah, and I notice a big difference in like when we do specific things for the next day's workout. So, but anyway, so yeah, that helps me, stay in the gym. So yeah, everyone's going to have like, the roller coaster a little bit, or the ebbs and flows if you've been doing this long enough. And we were talking, we've seen a lot of people come in and they're like level 2 and they're all about it and they're doing everything and, a comp every weekend. And then they're gone in a year. And so I just learned over the years to like pick my spots or have things that are coming up. Like I've done obstacle course races with Savage Race, Tough Mudders. I've done all those. And then I've done a lot of local competitions. Like I just did Festivus, and we've done that 4 or 5 times. And I've done a few other local comps. I did a comp with Kate in 2019. It was with Dan.
That was a lot of fun. It's still like my favorite comp I've ever done.
Yes, that was a lot of fun. And that, like Brandon was saying, that was probably one of my fittest years.
Yeah, I would say that was the fittest, at least in my memory. I can remember you were like, you're doing a bunch of muscle ups in a competition. Like you were lifting a lot of weight. You were super lean. So everything from like aesthetic standpoint, your diet, nutrition was dialed in, and you were doing. That was a high level competition too. So that I think
you were just scared because you had to be Dan's partner.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't want to fuck.
So that was a 4-person team comp, and you guys were going against a lot of regional level competitors.
Yeah,
so
we didn't know that.
Yeah.
I would say it was like more of that than any. I remember a guy doing a clean complex with 365.
Yeah, I was doing like 185 or 205, and these guys are over 300 pounds.
He was like a high-end, like nationals level weightlifter and regional competitor, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, so we did that. I did Summer Shred in 2018 was probably the leanest like body fat percentage I've ever been. So yeah, those were years that like I was dialed in for specific things, but obviously with work, family, everything, you kind of have different focuses. But I'd say like to maintain the consistency, and I've told a lot of people this, and I say it all the time, like 80% of the time I show up to the gym because like that's my like fun, like that's my social time. Like, yeah, I will have specific goals sometimes for the workout, but usually it's like, oh, like I get to go see Patrick and Kimberly and
see your friends
and like it's an added, reason to come into the gym. And I think that helps with the consistency, having the group or the community around you. So
yeah, because even if you feel like crap, you show up and you can just talk about it. Like, yeah, I feel like shit today. Make jokes or whatever.
And I've heard it before, but it's some of the days you feel the worst, you end up doing
the best
on like
that anger.
Or I'll be like, like I'm not gonna hit anywhere close to a PR on deadlift or on this, and then you'll hit a PR. Like your expectations are low, so if you just show up, you never know.
And you're still hitting PRs, aren't you?
Yeah.
Didn't you just hit one not too long ago?
I hit a clean clean and jerk PR a week or two ago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's surprising
cool.
because I think that helps you kind of change your expectations. So I'm not planning to hit PRs usually. I'm just trying to stay around, 90 to 100 sometimes if we are doing a 1 rep to just see if it's still there. But yeah, it's surprising. It's like, oh, it feels really good today. Why not?
That's great.
Go heavier. But yeah, it's definitely having the core group that we have at the 630 that helps, with the consistency and everything.
Well, what's cool is you guys participate in all of our stuff, and that makes I feel like that really makes the value of the gym really pop out. Like you come to the socials that we have one Saturday. You do the contests, our summer shred and our hot for the holidays, which like, again, if you're participating in those and making sure you're showing up to that, like Kate and I do those, with everyone every single time. And then I always notice at that time of year, my fitness nudges up. It does. Cause I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to try and run, every Saturday out at, Hoover Dam or wherever we're going, or I've got this partner WOD that we got to do. And, it really just kind of like levels you up. And when you pulse that every year, you have those 2 6-week periods, which is, that's a good percentage of your year that you're more focused than you would be otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. And the other thing with keeping the consistency, so over 40, I'm not going to come in every day expecting to like have my best workout. So these days, what I typically do when you post the workouts is I'll pick 1 or 2 that week that's the workout I'm going to go hard in or try to, try to blow it out, do as good as I can, especially if there's a barbell cycling workout or something like that, because that plays to my strengths. But yeah, I'm not coming in every day trying to win the workout and forget about form. Like I'm usually trying to, do the movements correctly as much as I can, and go from there. But yeah, if you're coming in every day trying to win, chances are you're not going to be here for a long time.
You just burn out. I mean, it's like with anything else. I mean, career, or we've had coaches before where they're so fired up, and this is a while ago, but one coach we had, Brandon's like, dude, I really like your enthusiasm, but you're not going to last. And he was gone in like 5 months, and he was like, we're going to get everybody to compete. And I mean, it's contagious when you're around that, but it doesn't last long where if I think half this battle is just not taking yourself so seriously, whether it's with workouts or again in a career where you're there for 25 years, doing the same thing. It can't be like the only thing that occupies your mind or you're going to give up.
You got to find that line between passion, which that is, you want to be passionate about it, but also like consistency too. So
like a marriage. You don't talk for a couple weeks. It keeps you going for 35 years.
It's not always white hot. No comment.
You go on vacation for 12 days, and then you've got to find another block in the year where you go away for 2 weeks.
This has been recorded, so I should be careful too.
No, that's good. That's good advice, though. I mean, and one that I struggled with, I think, for years, where I had taken CrossFit really seriously for a long time, and then I struggled for a bit, kind of coming back down the ladder a little bit, like, and finding a more sustainable approach where I was like, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to try and make regionals. And then I was trying to train and improve on that level. And then I just started getting hurt all the time. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like you're training. It's like you're training for the Olympics that doesn't exist anymore. And then it took me a while to find that. You seem to self-govern that better than I was able to, like, throughout this whole time. And I think that's something everyone can learn. And I, I've had like Tyler Ferricks and Mike Gold on here who are even higher, they're higher level athletes than I was. And they did such a good job of like moving over from level 2 back into all levels, doing that really well and sustaining it, whereas a lot of people can't make that transition and they're just like, I quit.
It's their ego.
Yeah. I quit. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it ever again. Like I can't not watch someone go past me on the finish line.
Yeah, I definitely went. There were definitely a few years where I was less like, I wouldn't say consistent. Like I was here, but I was just going through the
heart
motions.
wasn't here.
Yeah. So there would be times that you're like approaching the burnout, but then I would try to find like do the run club or do something to get outside of the gym, but still use your fitness. Or I go in and, do something that's going to make me happy that day. Like if the workout's really not going to do it, then I'll do power cleans or do something that I want to do and makes me still go into the gym. So I think I started to find that balance and to keep the consistency of going to the gym.
Yeah. I think something I've noticed with you too, because I'm similar, like we'll participate in a lot of things and not expect to win it all. Yeah. Like I was an okay like athlete in high school, but I don't show up to 5Ks expecting to win, and I think what, people get in their heads, they have to win everything. And I'm just kind of like, hey, I'll try my best.
Yeah,
I'll show up.
I probably do better when I temper my expectations than when I'm like, especially at the open, like I forget, this past open was good, but I forget what year it was. I wasn't even going to do the open. It might have been 2021. And then my friend Patrick, who goes to the gym, they're like, oh, just come and judge me. And then I judged him and I ended up doing it. I probably had more fun that year because I didn't even expect to do it.
Yeah.
And then I did it with no expectations and it had probably the most fun I had in any open. So that was good. And same thing with the Festivus we just did last weekend. I wasn't even going to do Festivus, and then Patrick again was like, oh, we're doing Festivus. You should do Festivus. So ended up doing it and placing third. Patrick Koenig and Kimberly placed second. But I looked at it's another one where I looked at the workouts, and I was like, well, the first workout had like 3 little pieces, like max power cleans, max sumo deadlifts with a kettlebell, and then overhead press with a kettlebell. And I'm like, that's my workout. I'm just going to go ham on that one. And the other ones were like, there was a chipper, synchro thrusters, and a row one with one partner rowing and another partner doing lunges, box step overs, and something else. I'm like, I'm not going to win those. Like, we may do okay, but let's win the first one. And so we won the first one, and it carried us through to, like, if we hadn't won the first one, we won the podium. So we annihilated the first one and got first, I think, by quite a bit. So that helped lead us to third.
Gives you some confidence too if you win an event. Like,
yeah,
you're just like you're kind of geeked,
It was that balance. It's like, do I go out hot on the first event and the other events will suffer? And I was like, yeah, they'll probably suffer a little, but I'm not gonna. Maybe we get third in some of those others out of 6 or 7 teams. I'm like, but this first one, we could win it. So let's just do that and then deal with the consequences.
Well, what I'd like to ask you too, and I think this is a aspect of our gym that I think is, when people are looking into it, they're always, okay, we've got this cool training, we have a cool facility, great coaches, but the social aspect is one that you and your whole crew, and it, I think is something that's really, it's hard to explain or talk about, and
there are gym mascots.
Well, yeah, and you can't. And the thing is like, so people oftentimes
spirit team.
They talk about community at CrossFit gyms, and again, that is like having community is something that it's not real controllable by like an owner or like you can be like. I hear a lot of gyms like, we have the best community. Like, well, what do you do? And it's just like, we just do. And I'm like, well, that's like, you're just lucky people are cool and they're like hanging out and talking.
Yeah.
So, and with you guys, you're driving the bus on that much more so than I am. But, we do have 4 to 6 social events a year. And it's something that you participate in. And then, tell us just about like the friendships and things you've made here at the gym.
Yeah, I would say the socials are big because they give us a way to like see everybody not in their gym clothes and like get
you
to
guys
hang
just
out.
don't just show up. I
No.
mean, they make shirts. They made a shirt for our summer social, a Dan shirt. I mean, they show up. I mean,
I
they're
almost
all
wore
matching.
it today, but I was nice
cool.
today. I figured I'd wear my new Festivus shirt. But yeah, we try to like have fun with it or do fun things. Like for the 4th of July one year, I think I dressed up as Goose from Top Gun, basically had the mustache and everything. But the socials typically come at the right time too. Like when we do the one after Summer Shred, like we've put in 6 to 8 weeks doing that, so it's like, oh, we get to like hang out and we worked hard to get in better shape, so let's have fun with that. And then the fall one comes at the right time because it's right before Hot for the Holidays, so you get to have fun. Yeah, maybe. I'm not going crazy this year with that, but yeah, you get to have fun, have a good time, and then like, okay, after this, then we can start getting serious to start that, which I wasn't going to do that one this year, but Mandy asked me to be her partner again this year, so I was like, all right, I'll do it again.
And you keep up with you let things kind of ebb and flow, and I think that brings you back to, so you're not always trying to stay like at your leanest or your tip top, but you always stay in shape.
Yeah, it helps mentally because if you're always dialed in tracking, and the people that can do that consistently all the time, kudos, but I'm not one of those people. So
I think there's very few.
I need
less
like
than 1%.
I need the like, okay, this time I'm going to try to maintain, and then at these times of the year, then I will try to lock it in and do as good as I can with that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think the socials just help to, it brings us all together, but it also, you bond. Sometimes that's when you bond, is when you're hanging out, drinking, like you're not worried about things. You're not worried about the workouts or work or whatever. You're just hanging out. So that's where you create those relationships. Just like with work, like sometimes at a work conference, you'll make better relationships after hours than you do during the meetings.
Yeah.
And stuff.
I've met people that at our socials that I've seen like casually throughout the gym, but I don't typically get to coach them too often. It's like a hey. And then now when we have them, every time we have a social, I'll gravitate towards those people and we'll hang out and talk because I figured out they're really cool. And we have a lot of like common interests. So it's like I got a buddy who's always like there. It's like, oh, hey, how's it going? And haven't seen you since the last one 3 months ago. And then we'll catch up and have a beer and talk for an hour. So I love that part of it too. So you did Festivus. We've got Hot for the Holidays coming up. When you just like envision your fitness over the next year, do you have any plans beyond the next like 8 weeks? Like, hey, I'd like to take on this race next summer, or I'll start gearing up for the Open or whatever it is. Like, is there anything kind of like coming up for you?
Outside of Hot for the Holidays, yeah, I'd say I'd like to be in a little bit better shape for the Open this year. And then it's been a goal for a long time to eventually do Murph vested too.
Yep.
Do like maybe not do it unpartitioned, but at least try to do it vested. So that may be a goal for the next year. Cause
that's a good one.
In the past, I wouldn't do it vested. And in 2019, Dan was like, you're not allowed to ever do it vested unless you can do it under 40 minutes unvested. And I did it Cindy style, but I did do it under 40 minutes, and that's when I got Dan to drink beer. I made him stone cold 2 beers if I was able to get it under 40 minutes, and I was.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, there's video evidence on the body.
Dan does not drink at all. Yeah,
you got to go down the rabbit hole, but there is video evidence of that. But so I've done that. So that was a goal, to legitimately get it under 40 minutes. And then eventually I wanted to do it vested. In the past couple of years, I'm like, I haven't been wearing a vest enough, or I'm not prepared for that. So I would like to, and I have a really nice vest too, so I would like to use it for
show it on
Murph.
But, we do a little Murph prep,
yeah.
With the vest options. I personally haven't done it vested in years, and that would probably be a good goal for myself too, because it's a different ball game with that weight vest. It's really hard.
I've done I think you've done half Murph before for prep. I've done the half Murph with a vest. I've just never done it Cindy style,
Yep.
but I've never done the full thing with a vest on. So that would be a goal next year. At this point in time, I'm not planning to do any like obstacle course races. The Savage is always an option because that's my favorite one, and it's in Bell Fountain, Ohio, which is only like
Keep going. I'm going to check this one more time.
hour and a half away. But that's all. Like if somebody wants to do that, it's not hard to twist my arm. Just like Festivus isn't hard to get me to do that.
How long is that race? That Savage?
So the Savage race is 6 miles. It's at Mad River Mountain, which is ski resort in Bell Fountain or near Bell Fountain. So it feels like maybe 8 or 9 because you're going up and down the ski slopes. I mean ski slopes for Ohio, but it's tough when they take you up the hill immediately, and then I think the last time it was like up and down like 10 times. So it gets tough, but it's the most fun in my opinion.
When is that? What's the
It's
date
typically
usually?
in June.
Okay.
1 year, I think right after COVID, so 21, they did it early and I think that's the only one that one this year missed. But because they did it in May, but typically it's the first week in June. But it's fun because it's every like half mile there's an obstacle, or even before that. So you're thinking 6 miles, but really you get to stop because there's always a bottleneck at the obstacles. So it's a lot of fun. They are a true obstacle course race where Spartan, if you're doing like the 3 mile, that's fine. That's great. But if you're doing like Emily did the 14, there's a lot of running. So if you like cross country running, do the Spartan. But if you want to actually do obstacles, I would do something like the Savage.
Do they do like the wet part with like the you're crawling through mud and the wet part?
Yeah,
that
under
race?
barbed wire and
Yes,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, they do that. I think there was only one section the last time we did it. They do the ice tub where you got to go under the water in the ice tub. They do not do the electrocution thing anymore.
Okay, that's good. That's where I would always tap out.
I had to go through like the Tough Mudder years ago. They had those electrocuted wires. It's unpleasant.
Was it pretty painful?
Yeah, because you don't because they have a bunch dangling and not all are live, so you just don't you're just kind of going through anticipating that everyone's going to shock you, and only it's like out of the blue, so it's just like it's nerve-wracking.
Is there no way to avoid getting shocked?
You can get lucky.
Yeah, but
there
you're
are
not-
some
you're
people
not
that
gonna
get
get
lucky. So you only typically have to do it your first year. I mean, they're not going to force you to do it, but they say like if you've never done it, if you're a rookie, you have to do it. If you've done Tough Mudders before, you're allowed to go do a separate obstacle. Sometimes they have. But the year I did it, I made it all the way to the end. Last line of defense, I'm like, I made it, and it hit me right on the shoulder and took me down.
I think towards the finish line, there was one, if I remember, there was like a big, it may have been like 10, 15 yards, maybe 20 yards of like this like kind of mud water pit. The finish line was on the other side, and they just had this big like, structure built, and all the wires are just hanging down. Yeah. So I think I just remember running, and I just kind of just jumped and dove and crawled. I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to go as fast as I can through this. It just getting like zapped. And then they have one where it's like a really low, almost like you're like, look at the Audubon, like you're going underneath the ropes in that sand pit. It's kind of like that, and all the words that so you can't like really avoid. You're going to hit. You're just like, God, damn.
That's how the Savage was the first year. They only did it the first year because somebody had a heart attack. So they didn't do it ever again.
Yeah, I can see it being a liability. I mean, it's a little.
Yeah, so you had to crawl through. At the Tough Mudder, they would have hay bales too. So if you got shocked at the wrong time, you'd end up tripping over the hay bales. And the 1 year, I just dove over too to avoid them, and I did, but I came up with mud and I couldn't even. I'm like, somebody come grab me! I can't see. But it was
Where do they get that from? Is that like a military thing or what? I mean, who runs?
shocking?
Yeah, who
Yeah.
runs this? Is that?
Yeah,
Well,
seems
it
like
sounds
off
like
of
they
like
don't do it anymore.
some
I
sort
don't
of
know
Navy
if
SEAL
Tough-
training or
I don't know if Tough Mudder does anymore. I know Savage doesn't.
Yeah.
and I don't
It
think
was over a decade ago, so probably not.
Yeah.
Correct.
I would like to do we did one. It's they don't. I think we did like one of the last ones. It was a battle frog,
Yeah. That
which was a
fun.
ton. We had a ton of fun on that one. That was That was a great time, but it was like, I think it was 4 miles of a ton of obstacles, and they were challenging, and it was like, I don't know, it took us probably an hour or so to get through it.
I think it might be closer to 90 minutes. Yeah.
Hour and a half, maybe. And it was great. We had a ball, and that was the only one that I've done. I'd like to do maybe a longer one or train up for one again.
So the Savage, it just depends. So when we've done it with larger groups, say 8 to 10 people, and it's the 6 miles, it can take close to 4 hours, 3.5 to 4, depending on if you're trying to all stay together. So when we're all trying to stay together and we're waiting for our slowest person or whatever, taking breaks, it's probably closer to 4. The year I did it just with one other person, we did it in 2. So if you do it with somebody close to your fitness and you can just keep moving and do most of the obstacles, you can get it done in 2 hours. But if you have a large group, and the whole point was to have fun the years we had larger groups. So we're not trying to beat a time. You do always have people that go ahead and then wait. But typically we were doing it to like have fun as a group. So the goal wasn't to like get this great time, but the goal was for me is always to complete all the obstacles. So regardless of time, I want to complete all the obstacles. So typically like this last year, I think I did most of them, except they always have this like tough monkey bar one or one where you actually have to take the rings off the thing and use the rings to go. Those are tough for me. I can do they've changed it over the years. It used to be, forget what it's, sawtooth or something. It is like a monkey bar, and I can do that, but they changed it to a ladder, which I still was able to do, but it like beats up your hands a lot more than just the normal monkey bars. But that's always the goal for me, is at least now, is to complete all the obstacles. Or at least I'm trying to complete all. And Savage is good too for people that like Spartan makes you do them, or you have to do 30 burpees. Savage is never going to do that unless you're in the pro heat. You just can do it. So it's good. It's a good one to start too, just because if you have an issue, like some years we've had people that had shoulder issues, they just skip those obstacles or they do what works for them. They're never going to push you to do a certain obstacle if you're not doing the pro.
They now have that Hydrox racing too, which is that's a more of a sport, and like
Hunter McIntyre,
like CrossFit endurance, isn't it? Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, so they locked it in. It's like, it's the same event every time, the same way like a triathlon would be. You have like, it's a running heavy event with, I believe you have like a farmer carry, a sled push, and I do know it ends with 100 wall ball. I don't think you have a lot of like pull-ups or anything like that.
I saw them doing lunges too. I forget,
a walking lunge.
Yeah, I forget who posted that they did it. They did it in like a partner comp, High Rocks, and they were doing lunges in it.
Yeah, it's like basic, straightforward movements with, I don't know, maybe 10K of running. I know it's starting to become a popular thing in the way that like it's a little less. You don't have to learn 50 skills. You have to learn, 5 and be able to run, and it looks fun. So I don't know if they do them and have done them in Ohio, but I know that's become like the rage.
And you've got the crossover with CrossFit athletes doing that too. So
yeah. CrossFit, I mean, with any of that really helps because, if you get like a straight runner, they usually don't have the midline strength, or certainly like the pulling strength for all the climbing that you have to do. I remember that seemed to serve me well at that Battle Frog, like just being able to do a lot of pull-ups and climb, and they had a rope, and if you didn't know what you were doing on a wet rope, like it was really hard. So
yeah, it is good. It's good to do some obstacles, like we do the Audubon. It's good to do some of those, but if you're doing CrossFit consistently, you're going to be able to do most of the obstacles fine. It's not going to be a problem. Like some of them, when they do have the shoulder heavy stuff or like arm stuff at the end when you're taxed, you may have been able to do it at the beginning, but you can't now. But for the most part, if you're doing CrossFit consistently, you'll be able to do most of the obstacles.
Cool. Well, next time you get one of those going, we should maybe try and get a group going and
I wasn't going to do it next year.
I'll do it.
Yeah, something. Get a group. Get get a little training plan together, put it at the end of summer shred or something.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
I definitely do one again. I always said I wanted to do another one, but just never made time for it.
Yeah. That stuff's fun.
But yeah, if anybody gets triggered by us saying the 6:30 a.m. class is better than the other classes, we'll have to have an open.
I'll look at.
Challenge.
I would like to try and do something fun for the open. I want to get a lot of participation this year. We had good participation last year, but I'd love to get even more and find a way to gamify it.
Yeah.
And take like individual pressure off the people and make it more of a team thing where it's more of a participatory event, which CrossFit has tried to do that, which I think is cool. Making it a 3-week open instead of a 5-week open. Making the events in that open a little wider funnel. And then throwing, once you get into the GHD sit-ups and rope climbs and handstand walking, that's a little bit more safe for that quarterfinal. So most of the stuff is things that, we're doing regularly in the gym, and that it's not going to be a big curveball for most people. So I would like to try and find a way and keep throwing your ideas. If I don't do them or execute on them, it's not for a lack of it's just, I'm like, okay, how can I not have to do everything here? And let's make this work in a nice, efficient manner and get everyone involved.
I'm surprised when anything I say gets put into
it does sometimes.
So no, it does. So hey, no, with any job or anything, like you throw out suggestions, every now and then they work. But no, I think that's a good idea. I also think at some point it would be good if CrossFit does, I've said this for many years, just a finisher shirt, like a race does. Like I think you think that's so small, but I think if they, especially now that it's only 3 weeks, if they did a thing where, and not some dumb code that you can save $25 on Noble or something, like you sign up, if you log all your workouts, they mail you a finisher shirt. And that's where your $20, whatever they want the fee to be. I really think that would, and maybe they don't think they need to improve the participation, but I think that would go a long way.
I like
something
that.
simple like that.
Yeah.
I mean, because a lot of times people do races or comps because they're like,
shirt.
I get the shirt, it shows I was there. Like,
yeah, it's fun to wear. No, I agree.
Yeah, we've started planning for it a little bit. I had our video guy in here, and we're marking the dates down. Like around, they haven't released the dates, but I'm like, it's between these 5 weeks. That
Late
we're gonna
February, early March.
Yeah. So we're getting it dialed in.
I also think if you did a comp with the classes, it makes you like, okay, what class do I associate with? And you do have people that'll go to many different classes, but a lot of them like, well, if I could choose, I would go to the 4:30 class, or I would go to, that could be your competition class. So.
It pits the coaches against each other.
Well, that might be helpful as well. So I mean,
get your numbers up so you can beat the 6:30 class.
A lot of rivalry is good,
All right. Well, I think that's a perfect place to kind of put a fork in it, man. I really appreciate you coming out and doing this. Like you are like, again, like Kate said, and a mascot for the gym, but like you like having members like you are what hold this place together. And, like, I can't thank you enough for just being awesome and seeing us through like every rough patch and move and COVIDs and all that stuff, man. So I appreciate you so much, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, man.